Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Divine Cupid podcast. If you're new, I'm your host, Indy Watson, and if you're not new, welcome back. After, I had the candle lit and everything because I'm about to get into my journaling, but I want to do a podcast episode, really quick. I just wanted to put one out. I feel like I'm very, not inconsistent with, specific days that I upload because I have been doing so good. Pat on the back to me. I've been doing really good with uploading and recording a podcast episode, which I did not think I would be able to do. Excuse me. That is one of my goals for the new year, and I'm glad that I'm standing on it. But I podcast episodes every week for sure. But I just can't give you a day. When I feel like uploading it, it gets uploaded. But to the episode, I've been constantly in thought, and I'm always in thought, and I've realized there is so much beauty in pain. I've always low key rock bottom is always, I've always said rock bottom is so beautiful to me. I my guilty pleasure kind of is being at rock bottom because I like the person it produces after the storm. I like the growth that comes from being at my wit's end. It's so scary to kind of say not that I like being depressed and I like being sad, but I like the lessons that I learned from the pain that I'm in. Is that masochism? That's that's not being a masochist, not completely. But I like the what's the phrase? I like the rainbow after the storm. I like how sunny it is. I like how bright it is. I think there is so much you learn about yourself when you are literally at your most vulnerable point. I realized one, I don't like being lonely. There is a complete difference from being alone and than being lonely. I feel in the times where I yearn for someone and I want someone to talk to, or I want someone to call, or I just I want to be in someone's space, and I realize dang, I'm kind of a loser bum with no friends, and I have no one to call, no one to no nothing. I don't like the concept of being lonely. I feel I went through a little experience in the past week, and I felt very sad, and I just sat in my sadness because I didn't know what to do. I've always been I do not want to burden people with my emotions because I hate being the person that comes to you when I'm sad, and I hate being the person that comes to you when I'm crying. I hate being the person that comes to people in a relationship because I also feel the more I talk about my circumstances in any relationship, any friendships, any life experiences, and the way that I handle it, I've always subconsciously wondered if that makes people see me less for not taking their advice or not taking the things that they have to say into consideration, because I always believe at the end of the day we're going to do what we want to do. I do want to hear people out, and I do want your advice, and I do want to know what you think, but I also want to do what I feel in my mind and in my heart is telling me I should do. And I do believe in just following the desires of your heart until you learn the lesson that you need to learn. But circling back, very confused point in time because I just sat in my sadness. Sitting in your sadness, I think, is humbling. It's, oh my God, so humbling, because oftentimes, when I'm sad, I'd be too busy to even realize, sometimes I'm sad, and that's a problem. You always should sit with your emotions. And I'm also a big person who minimizes being sad. I will quickly invalidate my own sadness, which is why it's hard for me to reach out to other people, because since I invalidate my own sadness, I assume someone else will invalidate it too. Since I'm there's no reason to be sad over this, I have started to break down those patterns and be more no, I understand why it's okay that I feel this way. This is why I feel this way. Even though it may not make sense given the circumstances that I feel this way, I still feel how I feel. So I'm going to validate my own feelings. I'm going to let myself feel this because that is just so what I feel like. I cannot control my emotions. I cannot control when I'm sad. I cannot control when I'm happy. That's just things that happen to me. I just feel those. Being a person too who's very deep in thought, when I am ever in experiencing of deep emotions, I am following that with even deeper thoughts. I've always psychoanalyzed every single bit and piece of myself, of my life, of my friends, of my friendship losses, of literally anything, and I always try to ask myself was it my fault or theirs? And I wonder are things ever anybody's fault? I've said a lot of the times recently, two things can coexist at once. That has been a phrase that has been in the back of my mind ever so often. Like, I could be like, oh, like, I love energetic people. Like, I love being an energetic person. And then I could also say, I hate being loud and I hate being around people all the time. Two things can coexist at once. I love being an outgoing person, but I also do hate being around people. Those things can, like, yes, so many things can contradict each other, but still can coexist. Like, it's just life. That's just life. Like, we live in a world of contradictions, unfortunately. Everything just contradicts one thing or another. And going through, like, these thought processes. So, one, I realized, like, through the beauty of pain and, like, this concept of healing, and like I said, like, being at rock bottom produces so many feelings for yourself. I've learned that I think I have, like, a bit of a fear of abandonment. Now I went on, like, it was random, but, like, a random wave, like, hit me to where it's like, I was like, why do I connect with people? Like, why am I friends with people who've done me wrong? Like, why is there love there when there should be hate? Like, there is no hate on my end, but why do I feel so much comfort in people who couldn't comfort me in the time where I needed them to comfort me? I was like, do I not love myself? Like, do I hate myself? Like, what's going on? I think, like, I don't want to, like, put the situation on blast. That sounds, like, kind of crazy, but I have, like, a friend. I adore this person. Like, I promise to the deepest pits of my soul, like, I literally love this person with my whole heart. And, like, we had, like, a little, like, rocky like, phase in, like, our relationship and our friendship, and I was like, I don't understand, like, how sometimes I can feel so comfortable with you, which is so good, but I hate that, like, in the times where I had needed you the most to comfort me, like, you were not able to do that. Like, how can I feel comfort in someone that wasn't able to comfort me in the way that I needed comforting when I needed them? And look, that's deep. That's a lot. That's a lot. But one thing I love about my friends and my friendships is we can express, like, our deep, like, thoughts with one another. Like, it doesn't have to be like, oh, this is a deep thought in the back of my mind. Like, I feel like if I feel something, I want to tell you, and I feel like if you feel something, I want you to tell me, because I want to have a conversation about it, and I want to understand, like, I want to understand how you feel at every single aspect, and I want you to understand how I feel in every single aspect. Love will always be there. Love is always on the table, but I want to be open. I want to be vulnerable. I want to know. And, like, having people in your life who are also big on, like, healing and growing and, like, spirituality and just things like that and that nature and, like, concepts, everything. Fascinating, beautiful, love it. It's just very, like, it's very, like, it's good to have. It's good to have. I don't always have to use big words. It's good to have around. Like, it's good to have, someone who can be and sharing that openness and be like, like, you really have me thinking about some things now. And it's always just good food for thought. And the consensus of the conversation was that, what was the consensus of the conversation? Let me think. The consensus of the conversation was, what did they say? I'm sorry. I remember. I so remember. The consensus of the conversation was that it's not really, it's not really something that you should target on you. Like, I feel like you're always going to meet people in phases, and you're always going to meet people in, like, certain places of their life. And sometimes the things that you want and expect out of people, they cannot give you at that moment. That comfort that I had yearned for in those time periods of my life, I was not able to receive, but I receive them now. Because people don't understand necessarily what it is that you want that they lack until they sit with themselves and they realize that they lack it. This is why I appreciate being at rock bottom, because I don't understand how badly I might suck until I look myself in the mirror and say, dang, I kind of suck. Like, I kind of failed this person. Like, I kind of was not a good friend. I kind of did not listen to them the way that they wanted to be listened to. I kind of didn't validate them the way that I should have validated them. Like, I've been a lot bigger on accountability now in my life than I ever have been in my entire life. I literally, like, reacted to a person that I cared about very deeply in a sense of emotion and hurt. And, like, literally, I was just so scared of, like, feeling like I was so scared of their energy being withdrawn from me that I had reacted in a sense of, like, boom, like, I was like, oh, like, no, I feel like I'm a turtle that likes to close up the second I feel threatened, and the second I feel, like, poked at, like, I'm just gonna go right back into my shell, like, please leave me alone. And I was easily able to retract and go back and be like, that was so, like, unacceptable. That was so bad. That was so, like, not a good quality of me to have, like, as a person, as a friend, as, like, an associate, as whatever. I think, like, you kind of recognize bits and pieces of yourself as you grow and as you learn and as you know, navigate through certain things in your life. And I think that because healing produces so many like phases of yourself, you're going to see yourself in so many different ways. It's really like up to you to see, like search through the storm. You know, I feel like we let the storm consume us. We let ourselves drown in the storm. We let ourselves drown in the storm when the storm doesn't really have to be something we're drowning in. Like, we can swim as long as we're staying afloat and not letting everything just like come crushing down on us, which I so know is so much easier said than done. Like, beauty will come out of that. I don't know. Being in like phases, because it's not even where like you don't even have to be sad to be healing. Every day you're healing, and you're never going to be fully healed. The idea and the concept that you're always going to be fully healed needs to be like eliminated completely. Like, it needs to be gone. Because I used to think that like when I'm this kind of version of you're never going to be ready. That's the point. Okay, you're never going to be this, you're never going to be that in the time where you want to be at and in the time where you need to be at. It sometimes really just depends on taking a leap of faith of the work that you put into yourself, and knowing that you will still continue to have to work on yourself despite whatever it is you're trying to get into now. Through my struggle, I've learned that I have a fear of abandonment. Did I mention this? I mentioned this in a podcast episode, and I apologize if this is redundant and I've already said this, but I have a fear of abandonment. And I used to have my biggest fear be my fear of being alone. And the more comfortable I became with being alone, the less badly I saw being alone. Like, I don't know, being alone isn't that bad to me, but the feeling of being lonely is. The feeling of like wanting someone to give me a hug when I'm sad and I have like no one to hug but myself, that can be a very like sad feeling and a very lonely feeling. It's just like no one wants to feel lonely. And it's not even that when you are around or when you are alone you are lonely, because you can even feel lonely around people. It's very like the concept of being lonely kind of ties in with the who in your life makes you feel seen. Good podcast episode. I'm really spitting, and I didn't expect to have all of these thoughts to like conjure up today, but literally like the idea of being lonely makes you like it comes into hand with who makes you feel seen, who in your life makes you feel seen. Because if you feel seen with people, there will be no room for loneliness, because you feel seen, you feel heard, you feel validated, you feel like you're in spaces where you can be yourself, you feel like you're in spaces where you are comfortable. Like, that is where like all of these feelings kind of arise. And I realized like I do feel seen by like people in my life. I do feel seen. I do feel like they see me. I do feel like they know me, and I feel like they see parts of me that I wish they've never seen, but they seen them, they like it, they enjoy still having me around. Love that. But sometimes it just comes with like immediate feelings, like who do you feel like I don't know. Because I never want to have like the expectation that people should just drop everything in the world for you, because that's such a stupid and unrealistic expectation that I feel like is only like funded by like movies in my mind. Like, I've always just seen like I'm rom-com girly, and I'm like all of those cheesy like, oh, like the girl got her heart broken, so now she's living with her best friend, and her best friend is like nursing her to health. Just a lot of codependency, and like I don't want to circulate around codependency. I don't want to ever be codependent, and like my podcast is not about codependency, babe. But that's a good podcast episode topic. I like that. But the beauty and the struggle is that you learn about yourself. I have learned about myself, and it's so crazy because I didn't think there was anything left to learn. Like, I feel like I'm a self-aware person. I will say something and I will know it, and I would be like, like, I know I have this problem, and I know I need to fix it, and I'm just like self-aware, and I didn't think there was anything else to learn. And I'm like, no, like there's still more to learn, because there's just things that we like double down on, and there's just some things that we just don't want to see in ourselves, and there's some things we don't want to work on. It's like nobody wants to say like I'm scared people are gonna leave me. Like, no one wants to tell you that. Like, I wouldn't want to say I mourn the loss of every person I've ever lost, but that's the reality of my life. Like, people who leave me, I always have portrayed myself as like a blocker, and as a person who's like just like avoidant and just like will leave you so fast. And that's not like the case per se. And I feel like when people listen to my podcast, they think like you have to walk on eggshells and thin ice like in my life, because that's not the case. Like, that's not the case. I'm not, you're not gonna breathe too hard and I'm not gonna leave you. I said this like while I was recording it in my last like podcast episode, but we live in a society that is very like leave or get left. And sometimes I think in the back of my mind, it's, dang, like, this is gonna hurt. I need to leave now. Like, I need to leave before it gets worse. And I had this conversation with a friend too. I'm having so many conversations with my friends, guys, you don't know. But I had this conversation with my friend too, and I was like, I never understood why people were so scared to get into like relationships with people, and like would say like, oh, I'm just scared of getting hurt, because like you can get hurt, like you can get hurt driving, you can get hurt riding a bike, like you could get hurt falling off your bike, and you never say like, oh, I don't want to ride my bike because I'm scared I might fall off my bike and get hurt. Like, no one ever thinks about it like that. You just get on the bike, and if you fall and get hurt, you just pick yourself back up and you get back on the bike and you keep riding it. Like, you put a band-aid on and you keep it pushing. You could get hurt driving your car. Like, you could get into a car accident and like, you know, lose your life, or, you know, be a paraplegic. Like, you never know what can happen. And I was like, I never really like the concept of people being scared to like get into a relationship because they're scared of being hurt. Sorry, I have to burp. Has always been so dumb to me until I was in that boat. Oh my God, it was so dumb until I was in that position. And I remember like literally I was like, I understand it now. Like, I understand it now. But everything requires a leap of faith. Everything in your life requires a leap of faith. To heal requires a leap of faith, because you're going to hurt regardless. Literally, just so you know, whatever you do in your life, you probably are going to hurt at some point. And to think pain will be inevitable for you, knock that standard. So unrealistic. You will experience pain literally doing anything. I can experience pain opening the door. Like, it just happens. I think you have to take a leap of faith in everything you do and understand that your rock bottom is still beautiful, no matter what it is. It is better to experience so many things and hurt over so many things than to experience nothing and have nothing to mourn and nothing to love. I would rather be hurt loving so many different people and losing so many different friends, but having the privilege to love them, having the privilege to know them, and having the privilege to experience them as friends, I would so much rather cherish than just the dull boringness of my life and like missing out on things due to fear. Another thing I want to talk about, because I feel like I will never integrate it into a podcast episode like ever, but I wanted to talk about like second chances, and I wanted to talk about the concept of like second chances again. Like, do you guys, when a door is closed, do you try to reopen it? Because I keep my doors closed. I don't like necessarily, I am a firm believer of like people grow and people change and people, you know, you can come back together. I think that is so possible, and I think that is so doable. But I in my mind, when I think of like second chances and when I think of like a person doubling back, it will always depend on the circumstances, and it will always depend on wait, can I retract everything I just said? I do actually I do like believe in second chances now. And I think I'm retracting everything I'm saying, because when I think of like second chances and when I think about like opening doors that have already been closed, I'm not thinking of me, I'm thinking of them. I'm thinking of, what have you learned? What have you grown from? Have you changed? But like, what about me? Like, you know, I will always be a firm believer, like, I will try anything again. I will try a friendship again. I will try a relationship again. I'll even give like a food that made me throw up when I was 5 again. Like, I will try anything again. But knowing who I am now and how I am now, and I know when to put things into place and parameters into place and boundaries into place, so I know what is right for me and what is not right for me, what will align with me and what will no longer align with me. Like, I'm just more on it. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of this podcast episode that I just like came up with off the dome, because back in the day, like, I lacked so much self-love, and I lacked so much of the ability to walk away from things that weren't serving me. And I literally would like not beg and plead, but literally beg and plead for people to like see me and hear me and like to feel seen and to feel heard. And now it's just like I'm going in places where I just feel seen and feel heard. Like, I'm not going to ask you to hear me, I'm not going to ask you to see me, and I'm not going to ask you to care about me. And if I do find someone, and I do find friends, and I do find people that do those things and it doesn't work, or like, you know, point me in a direction of myself that I just was not aware of, that I was lacking so badly in, I will take that pain and I will like learn and grow and elevate from it. And I don't know, I think that's life. I think the only outlook and perspective you can have is over what you can control. Like, can you control them? No. Can you control you? Yes. So what can you do? Grow, learn. And those are always going to be like very redundant things that I say, but in the like midst of being at rock bottom, you do have to do a lot of soul searching, and I think that really like helps you pave the path for your healing journeys in like so many other instances. I think the more you learn how to heal, the easier it becomes. The more you learn to sit with yourself and the more comfortable you are at rock bottom. And I not once ever said rock bottom was comfortable, peaceful, nice, lovely, fun. That is like, healing is hell. Like, I literally like crippling hell. But the rainbow after the storm is beautiful. So I don't know. I feel like that is something to cherish and something to value, because I don't know, what is this life without experience? And like, why would you go through life without trying to experience anything just for your fear of being in pain and being hurt? So I don't know. Take the risk. Love every single person that walks into your life. And yeah, if you are in the midst of rock bottom and you are, struggling and going through tough times, just hope you know that it definitely gets better. And there is a brighter and stronger and happier you at the end of it, and you will never be completely healed. So if you have the idea that like you have to be 100% healed, you will never be 100% healed. I literally thought I healed from stuff when I was 16, and I sat in my room and felt the same feelings as the same 16-year-old girl that I was like, I don't know why I'm feeling this 2 years later, but you're just gonna feel it. You're gonna mourn things that you thought you had already gotten over. You're gonna think about things that you thought you forgot about. Life hits you at random points in time, man, and thoughts hit you at random points in time. Like, you think you're okay until, you hear a song that reminds you of something that you went through traumatic in the past, or, something you're having a bad day and it just reminds you of the bad day you had like years ago. Like, you're never going to be fully healed, and that's okay, but you can like, you're still okay. You're like, I feel like I have more to say, but like, literally, like, you're gonna be okay, and it'll be okay, and everything will be okay. And yeah, I love you guys so much, and I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast episode, and I will see you guys next week. Goodbye.